Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 Judicial Accountability Forum. Thank you for coming this evening. I'm Jeff Thompson, a leader with Corridor Interfaith Alliance for Families, part of Central Texas Interfaith, and a member of Living Word Lutheran Church in Buda. We have a few things to go over before we start this evening. Central Texas Interfaith and Corridor Interfaith Alliance of Families are part of the Industrial Areas Foundation Network. We're a nonpartisan advocacy organization that works with and for marginalized families in Central Texas. We help them raise their voices about their needs and concerns to elected officials, and we don't endorse any candidates whatsoever for any elected office. Our agenda is our candidate. Tonight's meeting is not a traditional roundtable or candidate forum, and certainly not a campaign rally. All the questions the candidates will be asked will have come from our community and have been formulated beforehand. We know that there are other issues in the community, but we had to narrow these down to the issues that are within the authority of the district and county courts at law. And the judges that preside over them. And what has been named also as the top priorities from our communities. Additionally, we met with candidates and talked with them about the issues, negotiated with them, and invited them here to publicly commit to work on the issues that you have said are important to you. The candidates will be asked to respond to the questions with a yes or no answer, and then give a brief explanation. The set of issues for tonight are being put into, well, excuse me, they're not going to be in the chat, but they are the judicial oversight, public safety, and access to justice. If you accept these issues, let us see your approval with a round of applause. And you could just thumbs up, applause, or whatever. Time we'll call the meeting to order and invite Eric to take over at this point. Do you want me to do the ground rules? Okay, I will do the ground rules. There's some ground rules here that we have. Candidates will provide a yes or no answers first, followed by their explanations. We ask the audience to refrain from clapping or reacting during the candidate responses. In fact, we'll ask the audience to basically remain muted unless they are part of the program. If you agree or support a point, you can do virtual reactions, thumbs up or whatever, maybe hands that are applauding. With that, we'll get started.
Thank you so much for that. My name is Eric Martinez, and I'm the Executive Director with Mono Amiga. We are a proud member of the Corridor Interfaith Alliance for Families, and an organization that also works with marginalized communities impacted by either immigration or criminalization. We're going to go ahead and open here with a call to order and opening prayer. So with that, I will invite Pastor Storbeck on to open us for prayer.
You're muted, Anime.
Thank you. Let us pray. O God, giver of law and grace, be present tonight with each of us in this Judicial Accountability Forum. Grant clarity and insight as we listen to each other. Make your heart for justice, God, known, and give discernment for all who have joined us to prepare to vote in the current election. In your truth and for the sake of justice for all, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Anime. Let's start by seeing who's here. When I call your institution's name, please wave or use a virtual reaction to know that you're present. We have Buda United Methodist Church. We have the Living Word Lutheran Church. We have the San Marcos Unitarian Universalist Fellowship and Mano Amiga. A little bit of the background about some of the recent accomplishments Corridor Interfaith Alliance for Families has had. Over the past year, our community has made significant strides. After years of working with the Commissioner's Court, we secured $100,000 in funding in the 2024 and 2025 budget to support Capital IDEA, with matching state funds to boost higher education opportunities for low-income residents and combat generational poverty. In San Marcos, we've strengthened ties with the school district, hosting voter registration events for high school students and educating them on the importance of voting, as well as organizing house meetings to better understand the needs of newcomer families in the district. The Public Defender's Office, which we help establish to bring quality representation to low-income defendants, continues to be funded at the $2.3 million level in the Hays County 2025 budget, approved by the Hays County Commissioner's Court. We are building power in the corridor and community in various ways and look forward to seeing how this continues in yet another important election year. We will now turn to our questions and responses from the candidates. As a reminder, the Corridor Interfaith Alliance for Families is strictly nonpartisan. Therefore, we do not endorse any candidates. For each race, the candidates from contested races were invited to attend. We're pleased to welcome those candidates who accepted our invitation and participated in a pre-meeting. In those pre-meetings, we had the opportunity to discuss priorities in both our agenda of issues and in their campaigns. Our questions this evening were derived from our agenda of issues. And with that, I will pass it on to my co-host, Pastor Thompson.
Tonight, each candidate will be given 1 minute to respond to each individual question. When you have 15 seconds left, our timekeeper will say 15. And then when you have the 1 minute is concluded, she will say time, so that you know that that's the 1 minute limit. These rules have been shared with the candidates. We're going to review them. We ask the candidates to respect the time rules, to speak to the agenda items only, and no attacking opponents, campaigning, politicking, or campaign signs whatsoever. Can we have some thumbs up from the candidates on that? Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
The candidates grouped by county and district races will be given the opportunity to answer the appropriate questions. First up, we have the district court races, and we want to give the candidates 1 minute to tell us what their priorities will be if elected to office. To start us off, we have candidate Neidhart.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Es un placer estar aquí con ustedes. I am Tanner Neidhart. I am the current district judge of the 483rd Court. I want to thank you all for being here, for doing this, for having what you've called judicial accountability. I think it's so important that you're doing this and you all are giving attention to the judges, because in the end, we are the ones who affect people's lives on a very, very important level. Now, when I got there, I noticed that many of the cases that had been in our courts had been there for far too long. And so I set about immediately to get cases tried. The reason that people were waiting for trials, or the reason that people were in jail, for instance, was because they were waiting on trials. That means we needed to increase the number of trials. The average number of trials was 9.6 for the district courts. In my first year, I did 22. That gave defendants their day in court. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And now we have candidate Key.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alicia Key. I've dedicated my legal career to being a public servant. For 26 years, I served as an assistant district attorney, an associate judge for 3 years, and then I worked for 2 state agencies. I was the director of the State Office of Court Administration for the state of Texas, an agency that provides technical and administrative assistance to the courts. I learned then a lot about improving court efficiencies, about resources that are available to counties to help build their drug courts, veterans courts, public defenders programs. I was also there when we implemented the Task Force on Indigent Defense, and I was deeply involved in that. I also worked as the director of the Child Support Division for the Office of the Attorney General for several years. My priority will be to interpret and apply the law in a fair, impartial, and competent manner every day in every case. Courtesy, dignity, and respect. Those are the foundational tenets upon which I've built my life and my career. If elected to serve the residents of Hays County as district judge, those will also be the guiding principles of my courtroom. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now we're going to be sharing a story from one of our community members who's directly affected by the legal system. And with that, we'll go ahead and introduce the topic. So the court system can be incredibly complex and overwhelming, particularly for those who do not have the financial means to hire an experienced attorney or pay steep court fees. For low-income families, these barriers often resulted in delayed justice or worse, perception of no justice at all. Tonight, we will hear from Cyrus, who has experienced firsthand the devastating impact this system can have. This story reflects the broader issue of access to justice, and we hope it inspires our candidates to think critically about what they can do to ensure fair treatment for all. And with that, we have Cyrus Gray.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Cyrus Gray, and as a reentry investigative advisor with Mano Amiga, I've seen how the court system often disregard low-income individuals. After spending over 5 years wrongfully incarcerated, I encountered numerous barriers while navigating the system, both from behind bars and before trial. I presented strong arguments to judges, state prosecutors, and even my court-appointed lawyer, only to have them disregard me. My life was left in the hands of individuals who showed little concern for my fate due to my economic status. Years later, I witnessed the same arguments I had fought to make brought up in the case of another individual facing similar biases, vindictive prosecution, prejudice from judges, attorneys, and district attorneys, and blatant abuse of power at the Hays County Government Center. It became clear that my supporters and I had presented valid and factual points, yet we were unjustly denied fairness and due process. The legal system in this county continues to show a disregard for constitutional rights, particularly for those without financial resources. Today, I continue to stand for others like me, calling out these systemic injustices and demanding the fairness that every person deserves, regardless of their income, skin color, or background.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. And now we have Margaret. See.
Margaret, would you continue with your questions?
I think she's frozen.
She must be having some technical
muted.
No worries.
I've got the questions preceding Margaret, so let me start off and jump in. So thank you very much for sharing your story, Cyrus. And now we'll continue for our questions with the candidates for District Judge, Judicial District 483. So our first question is, as a district court judge, your rulings impact civil, criminal, and family law. Will you ensure fair access to justice for low-income individuals who face barriers navigating the court system? And if so, how? And Candidate Key, we'd appreciate your response.
Thank you. The answer to the question is yes. I will ensure that. I think there are two components to equal meaningful access to justice. The first is the access to an appropriate level of legal assistance. We have to work together to ensure that we have programs in place to afford quality legal assistance to low-income individuals accused of crime. We have to ensure that in civil cases, we have legal aid in place or self-help resources for pro se litigants. Obviously, these programs need more funding, and that's why I've been a longtime financial supporter of the Access to Justice Commission. I'm also a lifetime fellow of the Texas Bar Foundation, an entity that provides funding for legal assistance for the underserved. But courts can make a difference by being more user-friendly and welcoming, treating everyone with courtesy, dignity, and respect, making sure folks always walk away feeling they got a fair shake. I'd exercise my discretion to appoint low-income attorneys for low-income parties and ensure that defendants have the opportunity to give the best defense possible. The second part of equal access to justice involves a fair and efficient court process to resolve disputes. I would try to make it easier for individuals to navigate the legal system on their own, and I would work hard to move cases efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Neidhart.
Very good. Yes, and Mr. Gray has all the reason in the world to be upset with this and to be upset with the justice system. I hear that he waited 5 years, and it is unfair to me. He has a constitutional right to a speedy trial. I can't believe that he was put in that situation. I can't believe that it was our county that did it. That's why I have gotten in and I have instituted measures so that we finish all cases in accordance with Texas model time standards. If you go and any of you are there on your computer, you do a search for Texas courts model time standards. It says that all cases, 98% of cases, should be completed within 1 year. And we are meeting that criteria. Now, when Ms. Key said she wants an efficient court, I agree with her. We agree completely on that. And that's what we are doing. By doing 250% more trials than the other courts, we are giving defendants like Cyrus his day in court, and we're letting victims come in and tell what happened to them. In addition, how we're helping low income is we have the pretrial services program here in Hays County. That is an opportunity from the very beginning of the process to give people access to a whole bunch of programs that will help them to navigate this process. I am told that I am one of those who uses it the most because I want to give those low-income individuals the opportunity to navigate this system with someone at their side. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second question is, will you commit to working with community organizations, particularly in cases involving police misconduct or public safety concerns? And this question will now go to candidate Neidhart.
I have changed the face of transparency at the courthouse. Prior to me taking the bench, there had never been a camera in a Hays County District courtroom. I've changed that. They can come in if they want to. I've also started live streaming, and that is transparency. I've taken a lot of criticism for it, but I believe that you have the right to see what is going on in your courtrooms. The same way that we demanded body cams on officers, the same way that we demand our city council meetings are open to the public and you have access to see what they're doing, so should your courts. This isn't my court. This isn't the attorney's court. This is your court. And let's talk about what that means to be able to see and hold us accountable. When you have let's say that people say, well, they have the rights to go to court. But if you're a mother who has to take care of the kids, you can't go to the court and see. If you're Mr. Gray's family and you have to work that day, you can't go and see what happened. But what you can do is look on YouTube and see what we've done. Thank you, Belinda.
Thank you, candidate Neidhart. And now, candidate Key, your response?
Yes, I would definitely commit to working with organizations to improve transparency and accountability to build trust in our legal system. First of all, I'd be anxious to talk to community organizations like yours who've been studying this issue for years to hear your ideas. I agree with Judge Neidhart that we should do recording and live streaming of our court processes. However, I'd encourage my fellow judges to adopt local rules regarding that process like they have in Travis County and Harris County. Like those counties, I would support a balance of the public's right to know, the public's right to see what's going on with the individual participant's right regarding their safety or privacy. For example, we need to make sure that participants know that they're being recorded and have an opportunity to object. And we need to prevent the recording of the identities and personal information of jurors or potential jurors. And we need to broadcast and save those recordings on a public system, not a private YouTube channel.
Thank you so much. Now I see Margaret, are you back?
I'm here, but I'm muted and I can't unmute myself.
Well, we can hear you. I was going to suggest, since I took your 2 questions, you could take my 3 if
Sure.
you want.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Okay, question 3. Judicial accountability is critical for public trust. Will you support reforms to make judges more answerable to the public? Yes or no? And if so, what steps will you take to ensure judicial accountability? Candidate Key?
Thank you. Yes, I do support judicial accountability. And just like with the transparency question, I'd love to hear more from organizations like yours about ideas to improve it. Personally, I would faithfully observe the Texas Code of Judicial Conduct and ensure that my court staff under my direction did the same. I'd endeavor to uphold the constitutional protections, principles, apply the law fairly, safeguard the rights of all individuals, including minorities and vulnerable populations. I would support any measures for making it easier for members of the public, attorneys, or judges to report misconduct to the Judicial Conduct Commission and to know how to do so. I would encourage that judges participate in public outreach and civics education programs so that the public has a better understanding of how the court works and how it should work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Key. Okay, candidate Neidhart.
Yes, as we were just talking there about accountability and setting up these guardrails, I want to let you know that as part of the live streaming, which is accountability, which brings accountability, we have done just that and reached out to another group. So when you asked, will I, let me say we already have. For instance, I've met with the Hayes Caldwell Women's Center to talk about, and we are now creating the guardrails that will protect people's rights when we are live streaming. And for instance, as Ms. Key has called for, the idea that a victim would ever be shown is completely inaccurate. We have never shown a child victim or a sexual assault victim in a live stream. Those are the guardrails that we've set up, and we've always done that. Now, as far as the other side of accountability, I get out there. You saw the article with Ms. Benavides and I in KXAN where we were talking about accountability. I am saying things that make my colleagues uncomfortable because I say we are not giving people the right to the court fast enough. And I will continue to do that. When I'm out there talking about that, I get a lot of resistance. But it's important for you all to have a judge who will say the courts need to do better. And I'm doing that already.
Very good. Thank you so much, Mr. Neidhart. Okay, the next question. Mandatory sentencing laws can sometimes conflict with individual circumstances. Will you advocate for more judicial discretion? And if so, how? Candidate Neidhart?
Yes, I talk about this with my class at Texas State. I teach here, I teach a class on the courts, and this is the exact issue that we talk about is these mandatory sentencings that are set up. Our example is there was a student at Stanford, an athlete, who sexually assaulted a woman. He left her behind the dumpster, passed out and bloodied from what he had done. The judge gave a sentence, and the sentence was too low. There was outrage at that. And what happened was the community said, then we have to have mandatory minimums. By the way, the public defender's office said this is fair. And what we talk about in the courts is that when you start setting mandatory minimums, that means that you don't get the opportunity to have full discretion in the case. Texas, for instance, and the way we have it set up is 2 to 10, 2 to 20. or 5 to 99 years. I support that. I think when we put mandatory minimums in, that limits our ability to take each circumstance into account. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, candidate Key.
So the question I understand, thank you. Will you advocate for more judicial discretion? If so, how? Yes, I would. Mandatory minimum sentences limits the role of the judge. It treats every convicted person in the same way. It removes the ability of the judge to consider extenuating or mitigating circumstances. And if you think about it, mandatory minimum sentences shifts the discretion from the judge to the prosecutor. Regarding the question of how I would advocate for more judicial discretion, this would involve removing the minimum sentences would involve legislative change. I would be happy to work on any necessary legislation. During my past jobs as directors of 2 state agency programs, I worked on drafting legislation and I testified on countless occasions on bills to improve the laws of children and families in Texas. I'm very familiar with the legislative process and would gladly work on a team on legislative issues such as this one.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Next question. If elected, will you pledge to work with us to make sure all the residents of Hays County in the state of Texas receive equal justice? Ms. Key, candidate Key?
Thank you. Yes, I will make that, happily make that pledge. Similar to the access to justice question, I commit to working to improve the public trust in the integrity and impartiality of our judicial system. You know, national polls show that the trust and confidence in the judiciary has plummeted in the last few years. I will work hard to improve that and enhance it and improve it in every way I can. I will ensure that low-income individuals have appropriate access to legal representation, that court processes are fair and efficient and easy to navigate, and that every person is treated with dignity and respect and has an equal chance to be heard and receive justice. I know firsthand how positively or negatively a judge's demeanor can impact the people appearing in their courtroom. Everyone deserves to be treated with courtesy, dignity, and respect. And when anyone leaves my courtroom, they will know that they got a fair shake, and that will make the process all the more better. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. And candidate Neidhart.
Yes, and I'm already doing it. In fact, I've found it frustrating so far, the way on the most important issues, some people won't work with me, and I believe it's because of politics. You know who hasn't had that problem? Is Mano Amiga and Eric Martinez and Alyssa Garza. And I reached out to them and we started talking about very serious mental health issues that are plaguing our jail. So when you ask, will I do it? We're already doing it. I don't have to promise you that I would do it in the future. I can show you that I've done it now. And I look forward to continuing when this politics dies down right now, to getting back to talking to those people who are committed, like Eric and Elisa, to solving these problems. I know we can do it. And I know that we can keep taking care of defendants. As Ms. Key said, she wants them to walk out feeling that they've gotten a fair shake. And it's time and again that people have come expecting to see something different from their judge, and they've been very happy with the way that I've treated them, and I'll continue to do that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, very good. Now we're going on to Eric with candidate questions for County Court at Law number 3.
Thank you so much for you attending here today, Candidate Key and Candidate Neidhart. We wholeheartedly appreciate you being here, as well as Candidate Brown at our Judicial Accountability Forum. We will now be moving on into the County Court at Law section of our Judicial Accountability Forum. We want to give folks a reminder that we are nonpartisan. We don't endorse or oppose any candidates for office, and we offer the same amount of time and opportunity to each candidate. For the County Courts at Law race number 3, we have invited both Candidate Brown and Candidate Robert Wood Updegrove. Candidate Updegrove had a conflicting engagement and said that they were unable to attend. but we have candidate Brown in attendance. So we would like to give candidate Brown 1 minute to tell us what their priorities are or would be if elected to office.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and talk to you this evening. I really appreciate the opportunity. I have lived in Hays County for about 14 years continuously, raised my children, and 3 of my girls have graduated from high school at Dripping Springs. We chose this community purposely. We chose Hays County because we wanted to be part of the community of Hays County. And I decided to run for judge because I wanted to do whatever the judiciary can do to help benefit the citizens of Hays County, and in particularly to try and address some of the mental health concerns.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
So that is one of the reasons that I put my hat in the ring in 2022 to run for this position, was to try and make sure that we have a successful mental health court. And I believe that we do have a successful mental health court, and I seek to expand that in the future.
Sorry. Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, candidate Brown. So with that, we'll go ahead and talk about our first story and frame. So we're going to turn on to an issue that affects many families in our community, the intersection of criminal justice and mental health. Far too often, individuals with mental health conditions find themselves entangled in the legal system instead of receiving the care that they need and the support that they truly deserve. The lack of appropriate diversion programs can not only lead to unnecessary incarceration, but also exacerbates the mental health crisis these individuals face. I'm going to go ahead and be reading an account of a story that one of the families that we're connected to submitted to us. The names have been changed to protect the identities of the people involved, and they also communicated to me that they do have a fear of retaliation from the legal system, which is why they were nervous to be here today. So it says, my son Michael has been living with intellectual and developmental disability, IDD, his whole life. As his mother, I have always been his advocate, ensuring he gets the care and support he needs. But one night he found himself in a crisis, overwhelmed and confused, and an altercation led to his arrest. Instead of being treated with the understanding and care his disability deserves, he was thrown into the legal system like any other person. There was no consideration of his disability, no referral to a mental health professional I could find, and no offer for a diversionary program. He spent months in jail where his mental health worsened because the system wasn't equipped to provide the specialized care he needed. Watching his health and spirit deteriorate behind bars was devastating for me as a mother, and the system failed him, not by punishing his behavior, but by failing to address the root cause of his crisis. Michael needed treatment and not incarceration. This experience has shown me how essential it is for our legal system to have diversionary programs for individuals with disabilities. It's heartbreaking to think of how many other families are going through what we've endured, all because the system doesn't know how to respond with care and compassion, or families don't know how to navigate the system. And with that, we will go to our first question. Misdemeanor cases, probate, and juvenile matters fall under your jurisdiction. Will you ensure vulnerable groups like juveniles and mentally ill defendants are treated with dignity and have their rights protected? If so, how?
Well, I can give a resounding yes to the question. I have a background not only as an attorney, but also as a licensed professional counselor. So I do understand mental health issues. And I think it is important to address them through our court system in a humane manner. And oftentimes, too many times, we have individuals who are sitting in our jails that have mental health issues, and they're not getting any better. In fact, they're oftentimes getting worse and decompensating while they're in jail. So I believe in treating everyone with dignity and fairness. And one of the things that I've done with my mental health court is to make certain changes to respect the confidentiality and privacy of the individuals. My predecessor was in the mental health court just in a regular courtroom setting. I have changed that. We now have a special setting for mental health court so that they can feel that camaraderie, but also provide them with a certain amount of privacy, even though the courts do have to stay open.
Thank you. We now go into our second question. Will you commit to prioritizing diversionary programs that address the root cause of criminal behavior, such as mental health and substance abuse, over incarceration?
Yes. Under my leadership, the mental health court has grown from an average of 5 participants at a time to now we have 27 current participants with 15 graduates. Those 15 graduates have completed a 12-month program in which they were linked with services in the community, and they are continuing to receive those services even after they graduate from the program. We stay in touch with them. We make sure that they continue to do well even after they leave the program. Additionally, I have plans, and we just received a grant to start an assisted outpatient treatment program. This will expand the judicial ability to help have some accountability for others who have serious mental illness that may not be criminally justice involved, but still need to be linked with those services. And we need to make sure that those services are doing what they need to do for the individuals who need the mental health treatment.
Time.
Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and talk about our next story. It involves judicial accountability, defense attorney accountability. Belinda will be sharing their story here in a moment, and we'll talk about the difficulties her loved one has faced while navigating the legal system. In particular, the delays and the lack of attention to urgent medical needs. Her story reflects the broader issue of how the system often fails to prioritize the well-being of people who are incarcerated, leaving families in distress as they seek answers and justice. As we hear from Belinda, we ask, how can we ensure that judges hold defense attorneys accountable to meet the needs of their clients and prevent unnecessary suffering for both individuals and their families? And with that, I pass it on to Belinda.
Hi, I am Belinda Rodriguez, and my heart is heavy as I share the story of my loved one, Mark Zuniga. He has been incarcerated in the Hays County Jail since March of 2023, enduring unimaginable suffering due to the jail's refusal to accommodate his disabilities. After a serious fall, he broke his foot and sought help from the medical staff. They dismissed him, insinuating he was fine. It was only when his cellmate pointed out that his bone was protruding through his skin and he received medical attention and underwent emergency surgery. But just a couple of weeks later, he suffered another devastating fall due to the inadequate lighting in his cell, re-breaking everything that had just been fixed. Now he has been waiting over 19 months for second surgery, while being housed in solitary confinement with privileges restricted because jail says he is a liability. Despite Mano Amiga effort to advocate for him, we still have no answers on when he will have second surgery or why he has been delayed so long. I feel helpless and heartbroken, especially after Surgeon number 2 warned Mark that he has a 50-50 chance he will never walk again due to the delay of surgery. We have been waiting so long for court date and even longer for him to receive treatment he needs. It's important for judges to hold defense attorneys accountable to the needs of their clients so people like Mark don't have to suffer in silence. We just want answers, but we are left in the dark. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that story, Belinda. And now I'll pass it on over to Pastor Storback to give us the next questions for the both districts.
She's on mute.
You're muted.
Excuse me. Judicial accountability is for public trust. We want to know if you will support reforms to make judges more answerable to the public, yes or no? And if so, what steps will you take to ensure judicial accountability?
So yes, my answer to that question is definitely yes. It is important that we have an independent, fair, and impartial judiciary. It is really important that we have the public's trust that they will have a fair, impartial, competent judiciary. I believe in self-enforcement of the ethical rules. Certainly, I hold myself to a very high standard and am definitely a rule follower in my personal life and in my professional life. I believe that we do answer to the public. We answer to the public through voters, obviously, but we answer to the public by being visible and listening to the public's concerns, whatever those may be. And I try to do that by being involved in community discussions, civic groups, etc. And also, I believe it's important that we hold other judges to the same standards as we hold ourselves and respect and follow the Code of Judicial Conduct and report judges if they fail to meet those standards, or certainly at least have a conversation with them regarding that.
Thank you, candidate Brown. The next question in regard to mandatory sentencing. These laws sometimes conflict with individual circumstances. Will you advocate for more judicial discretion? And if so, how?
Yes, we don't have mandatory sentencing in my court because it's county court at law and we deal with misdemeanors. But however, I do feel it's important for judges to have discretion. Every case is a case-by-case situation. You have to look at the unique circumstances of that particular case, the unique circumstances of the individual involved. This often is the case when we're dealing with cases in which there is intellectual disabilities or mental health issues. We have to look at that individual situation when we're trying to decide what to do with that particular case. Is it appropriate for diversion? Is it appropriate for probation? Is it appropriate to have some other type of punishment? And so I think it is important for judges to have discretion.
Thank you. And finally, if elected, will you pledge to work with us to make sure that all the residents of Hays County and the state of Texas receive equal justice?
Yes, I believe that it is important that everyone have the same access to services, whether they're in the community, whether they're legal services. My background is I also worked for legal aid for a while. I understand the need for quality legal services for individuals, but I also understand the need for everyone to be able to get mental health treatment, medical treatment. And I definitely have sought out those services and have sought out the assistance of the commissioners to make sure that we can provide those services for individuals who come into the mental health court. Whether they can afford them or not, those services are then available to them as they seek to get on benefits, which will help them continue those services. I think that's really important. I believe everyone deserves to be treated fairly and equally, regardless of their income or social situations.
Thank you very much, candidate Brown.
Well, we do thank you very much. I first want to congratulate all of the candidates for respecting the ground rules and the time limits, but quite frankly, for people who aspire to a role as a judge, maybe that's an expectation we should have. So thanks for following the rules. We also appreciate the fact that you've made the time to be with us and share. It's been great, quite frankly, that all of you have replied in the affirmative with respect to the items we've identified. And as we've said, our candidate is our agenda. And it's quite frankly very supportive when I hear that you all can see the benefit of some of the items that we brought up. With that said, we shift our attention. We've been directing questions to the candidates, and now it's my opportunity to turn the focus around to all of the other folks who are sitting in on this Zoom call and chat with them. We are now into early voting, and we have the opportunity to vote. We also have the opportunity to encourage others to get involved with respect to this process. Our strategy for engagement really involves three things. It's personal relationships reflected in the pews and the precincts which we occupy. We would encourage you to not keep this experience secret, to think about your friends, your family, people in your community, people in your churches, and be prepared to talk to them and encourage them to be involved in this incredible process we have in the country as we exercise our democracy. I think I've shared previously that I myself am an immigrant. I've lived here for, I said 20 years, and my wife said, hey, it's close to 30. But it's really been remarkable for me to experience the entire process of what we go through every 4 years, and in some cases every 2 years, and we shouldn't take it for granted. So to all of you on the line, please exercise your franchise to vote. Talk to your friends, talk to your families, talk to folks in your community. Be aware of your neighbors. If someone needs a lift to the polls or some assistance to vote, please don't hesitate to engage and get involved. It's so very important. And you know, one of the simple opening lines you can say is, you know, what are your plans to vote, and when do you plan to vote? It doesn't have to be an inquiry about who they will vote, more just to get them out and to be engaged. I did also want to mention that we do have an opportunity to do a block walk in East Austin on Saturday, October 26th. So now that the weather is somewhat more reasonable and block walking could be fun, I would encourage you, if you've never had that opportunity, to participate in a block walk. It can be a lot of fun. And if you want further information, don't hesitate to contact Catherine Wicker, our organizer for CIAF. And finally, I want to thank you all for attending. You know, as I sit here and I look at all of us in the Zoom call, and I think back to, you know, prior to the pandemic, if I'd said Zoom, it would have been what? But, you know, as I look at the list of names, we've got a wonderful representation of people from across our community and across our corridor. And it's so wonderful to have you all participate and be here. And especially thanks to the candidates for making the time to participate in this effort. I think I hand it over to Jeff.
Yes, yes. We're going to close with a prayer. Let us pray. Lord of all, you have declared what is right, to seek justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with you. We thank you for this opportunity to meet with judicial candidates this evening to talk about issues that especially affect those in our community who have not received the justice they deserve. We ask you to give all of these candidates the spirit of wisdom, that they may perceive the truth and administer the law impartially as instruments of your divine will. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
And
Thank you once again for attending tonight's forum, the candidates and all of the folks who joined us. We look to continue this important work to create a just judicial system, and we invite you to all have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yes.